everybody. Thank you all so much for being here today. I'm so excited to join this panel here. And as you all know, education is a basic human right. And yet, for all kinds of reasons, over 250 million kids worldwide aren't going to school. And that's not good enough. The leaders joining us today are working to expand access to education and transform how kids learn for generations to come. So let's get into it. Omowumi, you have fought for systemic change in Nigeria that's helped over 100,000 women and girls feel safe to pursue their dreams. What lessons have you learned that you could share with us?
Thank you very much for that question and the opportunity to share some of the key lessons in the course of my work. In Nigeria today, over 70% of female undergraduates experience sexual violence. That's a crisis point. So my work in Nigeria is focused on catalyzing sustainable transformation by ensuring that every woman and girl has equitable, safe, and healthy access to education. And in my years of work, my approach, which is a systems change approach, has yielded tremendous results across people and system levels. First is that in Nigeria today we have a model policy, a national model policy on anti-sexual violence. And this model policy has been localized by over 26 subnationals and over 160 higher education institutions. But these milestones are definitely not without challenges, which we've been able to convert into key lessons. First lesson, which I take everywhere that I go, is that legal reform and policy reforms are not enough without social norms programming. Even the most progressive policy and legal framework require a complementary effort that is aimed at shifting norms and mindsets. That's critically important. Second lesson is that government listens to government, just like the rich people listen to their fellow rich people. So it's important that, within the government space that you find access to government that can help you to unlock further access to another government office. The third lesson for me is that when we started, I was really fixated on addressing the entire system, and my team really got overwhelmed. But soon enough, we were able to realize that it's important to focus on the foundational levers within the system that could catalytically influence other levers within the system. So just by fixing policies, you would, indirectly fix structures. So I learned the hard lesson, the hard way also, that it's important to, focus on high impact or high leverage points that could have ripple effects across multiple domains. And I think my final lesson also is that political economy analysis has to be ongoing. Stakeholders would change, motivations would change, interests would change, and so it's critically important that you identify your critical stakeholders and you ensure that your strategy is adaptive so that when your political economy analysis is ongoing, you can easily shift based on, the evolving climate within the space where you're programming. So these are some of the 4 key lessons that I carry with me everywhere that I go.
Thank you. And thank you for your incredible work. Chief Minister, you have a policy of radical inclusion in education. What does that mean, and how did it come out of working directly with young people?
Thank you so much. Everything that she just said is exactly what we hope happens in government. As Chief Minister, my job is to coordinate across all ministers. I'm like the Chief Operating Officer of government. And the radical inclusion policy happened when I was Minister of Basic Education back then. On the day in which I signed my oath of office, the president was on stage somewhere when I signed my oath as Minister of Education. And the president said that he was going to hold on to the ban that prevented pregnant girls from going to school. It had been a 10-year ban at that time. So I went back to State House and I engaged him and I said, you just made me Minister of Education today and you just said this policy, how would you like us to engage on it? And he said, go and listen to people. If you go and talk to the pregnant girls, if you go and talk to the parents, I will be willing to have a conversation about this. So precisely, I went out into the field, went to every district in Sierra Leone, met with pregnant girls, met with parents, met with boys, met with teachers, met with chiefs, and asked them a question about what would it look like for pregnant girls to be in school? What were their fears? So she said government listens to government. I wanted to change it as government to listen to the people, because that's what President Bio asked me to do. And the most important people there were young people. And what we learned was that these young girls who were pregnant do want to be in school. They are victims. Most of them under 18 had been raped, and having sex with a minor is rape. And so we're double victimizing them as rape victims and removing them from school, so they will likely not go to school again. Their children will have worse education, economic, and health outcomes, and that did not make any sense. So I gathered all of this and came back, and I spoke to the president and went to cabinet, and he was the biggest champion of radical inclusion. And he was the person who, when other people had doubts, was saying, no, 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 we will allow for pregnant girls to go to school. But the most important lesson, really, was while we went to listen to young people, pregnant girls, parent learners, what we learned was for radical inclusion to actually shape society, we had to include those who were in remote areas, because that's how they fell out of school. We had to include people who came from poor backgrounds, and we had to include those with disabilities, seen and unseen disabilities. So radical inclusion as a policy says that no matter who you are, every boy, every girl, with seen, unseen disability, poor people, those living in remote and rural areas, we will do everything to make sure that you can access quality education and you reach your fullest potential. That only came about by listening to young people.
Thank you very much. Gargee, how can we ensure that every child has the chance to survive, to grow, and reach their full potential from the very start?
Thanks. Well, for anyone who's a parent, you know the answer to that is long, from the emotional support and the hugs to the academic support and all the ways you champion for your child. But as a foundation making choices about where to invest, as a policymaker, we can't do everything. So we look for interventions that make difference through lives, that you can touch once or twice or 3 times, but they have a lasting effect on a child's life. And for us, that has turned out to be the real basics: nutrition and vaccination. So we know now that getting basic maternal nutrition to a mom who's pregnant, especially a young mom who may be undernourished herself, actually helps a baby's brain develop and their outcomes, their possible outcomes through the rest of their lives are significantly different. So we focus a lot on maternal and newborn nutrition. And then vaccines. We know that kids want to go to school, but if you're home with fever every week, if you're home with diarrheal disease, you're not able to be in school and learn. So for $1, $2, $3 a dose early in a child's life, we can give them that running start to then take advantage of education and opportunities. So that's been really the focus for us.
Thank you very much. Fran, can you share the role of public and private partnerships and how you've seen that evolve?
Absolutely. So when I think about the hardest issues, when I think about the issues that have the greatest risk, what we know is that partnership is even more important. And I think partnership from a government perspective, from a foundation perspective, allows us to do our best work. And at this moment, there are so many important topics. I think education is one of them where we have to come together. And I think we understand that when we're together, when we listen, we can have the greatest impact. And recently, I experienced something pretty different. Cisco came together with companies like Microsoft and Google, Accenture, and a few others, and we all shared our data about how we think technology will change roles, AI in particular. And typically, we would have done this by ourselves, but doing it together means that we're able to share those outcomes with the communities, with our employees, and help people prepare for some of the changes that are coming. And I think we all have to think about partnerships in different ways as we move forward. The other quick example that I would share is that partnership, I think, allows us to be creative and to think a little differently. We have this project in Brazil that we're really excited about. There's a ferry that travels down the Amazon, and it stops at villages that are not connected and meets with children that are interested in technology but don't have the ability to study. And they come onto the ferry, they take their tech classes, which we do together with the government, and when we're there, we also provide Wi-Fi for that village as well. And it's one little example, but imagine if all of us have these examples and are doing this work together.
Thank you very much. Omowumi, I'd love to come back to you, and I want to hear more about the mobile app that you developed to make campuses safer for women and girls. What do you hope its impact is long term?
Right. So during the early days of our work, we realized that 80% of reported cases of sexual violence emanated from campus communities. So designing the mobile app stemmed from what we would say was a pressing and deeply unmet need. And yet survivors lacked access to safe and supportive reporting channels. You know, they were faced with the challenges of navigating institutional environments that were often complicit. And of course, there were also fears of further reprisals when cases are reported. So we had to design the mobile app. And in terms of, you know, what the long-term impact is like for us, I would say that we're hoping that the mobile app would be institutionalized as a core infrastructure for campus safety and accountability across campuses in Nigeria and beyond. And I would also say that the mobile app actually holds a lot of promise in terms of ensuring that we're able to track cases, in terms of ensuring that people are able to catalyze the power of solidarity. So we realized that 80% of reported cases were actually also committed by repeat offenders. And we saw that just by stopping repeat offenders, we'll be achieving a 59.6 prevention rate of sexual violence. So the fundamental question at the time was, how do we achieve that? We realized that reporting had to become the new norm. And just by people getting a platform where they muster the courage to report, get the support they want, and perpetrators are held accountable, we will be able to achieve that. So essentially, it is our expectation that in the coming years, and even in the coming months, that we start having learning environments, you know, where people are able to come forward and talk confidently about this issue. And also that we're able to center the voices and experiences of people that are directly affected by this problem by building feedback loops and shifting power, which we know will trigger better institutional response. An Agenda Mobile initiative, this mobile app is a reflection of what we believe, that technology can be a powerful lever for justice by reimagining what accountability looks like, what agency looks like, and what the voices of women look like. Thank you.
Thank you. Really look forward to seeing its continued impact. Thank you. Chief Minister, before becoming Sierra Leone's Education Minister and first Chief Innovation Officer, you worked on AI at IBM. How are you using that experience to transform education in your country?
I'm just so inspired that I feel like I'm going to have you come to Sierra Leone with me. Everything you're saying is what I really think government leaders should be doing. When I first came to Sierra Leone, as Chief Innovation Officer, I'll be on the radio talking about data. And people will say, oh, quality education, you show us better quality education. Don't tell us about data. Don't tell us about data when we don't have water. Don't tell us about data when we don't have good hospital systems. But I think what Omowumi just said and what she's demonstrating is when we speak in terms of data, when we measure outcomes, when we measure impact and communicate that, that's part of solving the problem, and that's part of making sure that everybody comes on board to see a future that we can imagine. When I joined government, I had very long dreadlocks. I was 31. It was not common to see somebody with dreadlocks at 31, not wearing suits, sitting in the office of the president, talking about data. So I was out of sorts and out of place. But the people who we had with us, one of them, Bayo, is in the room. He also has dreadlocks now, actually. But the people who were with us then were other young people who believed that we should be able to create solutions that work for everyone. Specifically, linked to radical inclusion and technology. Back then, people would take weeks and have to pay $10 to check their kids' results, which means it's a difference between whether a father has to choose between allowing his son or daughter to go to the next grade. And it also was those weeks that led to that teenage girl getting pregnant and dropping out. Our team developed an app that allowed for kids, no matter who they were, wherever they were, to check their results instantaneously. That meant more transition for girls. That meant parents could better finance their child's education. Being able to develop what we call the National Innovation and Digital Strategy back from 2018 meant that when we speak about AI, when we speak about digitization, when we speak about all of these solutions, now we were thinking way ahead of our time. Final example. One of my students, I lecture as well at the university, and I was on my way here. I stopped in Ghana, long transit, so I exited, and I went to this hotel, and there were these Sierra Leonean students, and they came to meet me, and one of them introduced herself. She'd been in my class. I had 200 students. I didn't remember her. But she was in Ghana with a solution that was a mobile offline server for learning that they rolled out to all of these communities where they had downloaded learning material with the guys at UNICEF, with the guys at DSTI, and actually bringing these examination solutions to communities that will never otherwise have them. So I'm really grateful that President Bill had called this skinny, dreadlocked kid to come and speak about education and digitization and ultimately governance transformation. I still believe that we will transform our societies when we're able to deploy technology that brings us closer together, that drives equity, and that's available for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have to say, I'm really inspired by what you're both saying, because we talk a lot at Global Citizen about the people behind the data, and you've all managed to find a way to connect people's stories with the data and make that impact so much wider known. And it's been a real joy so far to hear more about your work. Thank you. Fran, I want to come back to you. Everyone's talking about what AI will mean for the next generation of workers. Do you think that it'll deepen the digital divide or make equity more possible?
I think it's up to us. I think it could do either.
It's kind of a $1 million question right now.
We're going to have to work so hard to architect AI to be inclusive. And as I listen to Omowumi talk about the app that I think is so important, 2.6 billion people around the world are not connected today. And we have to get the 2.6 billion connected so that they can benefit from AI. And so I do think that they're stepping stones. I do think when we talk about education, we have to talk about AI now as well. For those that are interested, Cisco provides free technology training through our Networking Academy. We've done this for 25 years. All of us have to be learners now and learn AI. Go online, take a look at those courses, because I think the more that all of us understand, we're going to be able to drive a level of inclusion in the technology as well.
Thank you. Gargee, as resources become more limited, what should governments and global institutions prioritize to continue advancing child survival and well-being?
Thank you. The Gates Foundation is 25 years old this year. And
Happy birthday.
Yes, up to you whether you see that as the young part of young adult or the adult part, but it means that we've only ever lived in a world of increasing cooperation, increasing focus on solidarity and shared prosperity. And that has led us to do amazing things. Hundreds of millions of people lifted out of poverty, having the number of children who die before their 5th birthday. And each one of those, as you say, is a family that will go on to a better future because of that. And today, of course, we're seeing cuts to aid. We're seeing challenges to global cooperation that we've never seen before in our lives. And so first and foremost, we are really trying to use our voice to talk about how much progress has been made and is possible in the future. That this is money well spent. You know, if you spend $1 vaccinating children through the Gavi program, we've calculated that there's $50 in return, $54 in return for the global economy. So it's a smart thing to do. It's a moral thing to do, and we'll advocate that aid and budgets flow. And we know we will have to prioritize. And Chief Minister, we were just talking before we came out, we are going to have to make very, very difficult choices, as governments do all around the world. And I think it's going to be more important than ever to focus on the interventions that we know make the most difference to people's lives, like health, like education, because that unlocks human potential to go off and create businesses, to start programs, initiatives, apps that then becomes a sort of positive flywheel for the economy. So for us, it's really advocating for the high ROI of cooperation and solidarity, and investing in health, education, the basics to give people a chance to show their potential.
Thank you very much. I think that is all that I have today. I feel like I could sit here all afternoon and listen to you all talk. Can we just take a quick moment to thank this panel of changemakers, policymakers? Thank you very, very much for what you're doing for women, for girls, for education in your communities and around the world. Thank you all. I'm certainly feeling a little bit brighter about our future and look forward to following all of your work. So thank you all very much for listening, and I hope the rest of your day goes well as well. Thank you very much. Thank you all.